Cool. Natural light. So I'm here today to talk about goal planning. Omi's asleep right now. So, got some wonderful hot chocolate. I put some cinnamon in it. That's just like those powdered stuff. Because I can't do a video without consuming something while doing it. Okay, so one of my Facebook friends has been asking like goal setting questions for the year. She calls it vision boarding. Not sure if she's actually making a vision board, but whatever. She's asking questions and she separated that out into 16 categories. You got like family category and like careers and jobs and stuff like that. So essentially, what are your goals for each category? Which I think is a pretty good idea as someone who is really good at setting goals and making plans and not actually following through on them. So usually around this time of year, the past couple of years, I've been doing that the year end compass thingy, and I don't know, I like the idea of it, but whenever I go through it to fill everything out, I just skip half the questions because I don't really have answers for them. Like it asks what significant things happened over the past year for you, and I'll be just like, I don't know. I don't do anything, so it's really bad for me to like fill in things that I haven't done. And also I like to live life a little bit, well, privilege of being underemployed. I live life without direction. Awesome! So I don't really have an interest in giving my life direction, so to speak. I've come to terms that I'm kind of a directionless person just in general. But that doesn't mean I can't improve myself or my life in various ways. And so I took her concept and then I switched it over from 16 categories to 12 categories because I like the number 12 a lot more than I like the number 16. And I combined a couple of them and I split up a couple of hers, and then I axed a couple of hers because they're not particularly important to me. So I've got this thing. It's backwards. Well, I don't know if it'll flip itself, but can I read it? No. Yeah, that looks backwards. But anyways, so I'm gonna do a video for each category and my main goals in the category, just so I can go back and be like, hey, look at all the stuff I didn't do that I said I was going to do this year. Oh well. So, category number 1 is job goals. So she had job and career split, but I don't care about having a career, so I'm not going to bother making a career category. And I'm going to try to smartify them as much as possible, because at least having an idea of actions I can do for these goals will help. And I'm not going to, like, if they're like more complicated goals, I'm not going to like break down each step or anything, just the overall thing. Okay, so for job goals I have 2 main ones. One is related to temp work, and the other one is related to writing and publishing. And so I'm going to try to start doing temp jobs, so I can supplement my lacking writing income because I don't write enough. And then I'm also going to try to write more so I can have more money. Okay. So the SMART definitions that I'm using for here, and if you don't know, SMART is an acronym that's used to kind of break down goals so they're more achievable, I guess. And so you want to make sure that your goals have 5 aspects to them. And what the specific 5 aspects are kind of changes depending on who you're talking to, I guess. I mean, it has the same basic concept, but people use different words. So these are the words that I'm using. So I don't want him to wake up. Then he'll kick me out. Okay, these are the words that I'm using. I guess I'll just talk quieter. So S for specific. Essentially you want very specific goal. M for measurable. You want something that you can measure over time. And then A, I'm doing both action-oriented and achievable. Action-oriented, simply be able to make sure it's something that you're able to do. A lot of people do goals, and really they define goals by the outcome that they want versus the actions that they're taking. And so instead of, for example, a lot of people be like, oh, I want to lose 20 pounds. They don't say, oh, I want to do portion control with the goal of losing 20 pounds. They just, I want to lose 20 pounds. Basically, you don't have like a little internal switch that switches you from here to 20 pounds lighter that you can go in and just manually mess with. So you have to define your goals in ways that you can actually, and the actions that you actually take. And so portion control is an action you can take. Losing 20 pounds isn't an action that you can partake in. And then achievable, because I'm really bad. I'll be like, oh, I'm going to write 8,000 words a day. That's a lot of words. And so I'm like, I need to do this. No, I don't. I just need to write less words. So instead of, writing 8,000 words a day for 2 days and then burning out for a month, I'll just write fewer words a day and then keep going bit by bit. So that's SMA, and then R is realistic, which goes with achievable, and then rewarding. That's something I'm really bad at, is figuring out what I'm getting out of it. So I'm not very intrinsically motivated, which is like most of my life's problems. But I think, I don't know if writing down what kind of intrinsic motivations and extrinsic motivations I'll have, but maybe writing down the intrinsic motivations will help, or intrinsic rewards or anything like that. Not sure, but we'll try it out. And then T is timely, and so you pretty much, you have to constrain your goal to a time. You can't be like, oh, I'm gonna lose 20 pounds eventually. That's not very motivating. But I'm gonna lose 20 pounds by the end of the year. That's more motivating. Okay, so for job goals, we got the temp work and we got the writing. And so for temp work, specifically, I'm gonna have it as I'm gonna work at a temp job for at least 6 months this year. I don't actually know if that's very achievable. I don't know how often temp work happens when you sign up for an agency, but we'll see. If it turns out that working 6 months out of the year from a temp agency is too unrealistic, I will change it. Probably won't say anything about it, but I will change it. Okay, and measurable. So 6 months is kind of a nebulous concept, and so I'm going to measure by days in which I work more than 4 hours, 5 days. So it's a work day is going to be at least 4 hours. A work week is going to be 5 days that week. And then a work month would be 4 weeks. I probably could go through and figure out how many hours total that is. I don't really care. I'm not sure I'm even going to be tracking it, but I could probably just go back through my pay stubs or whatever at the end of the year and be like, oh, I worked this many weeks and this many months, whatever. Okay. Actionable, sign up for a temp agency and accept jobs. So, maybe pick up extra skills on top of that, like clerical skills or whatever, programming skills. On top of that. Okay. And rewards. Money, essentially. Also, not having to force myself to live to my standards kind of thing, which is kind of frustrating sometimes because I can just like wiggle my way out of doing things for myself. But if I have someone else being like, okay, you need to do this for us, it might be a little bit easier for me to go and do those things. I'll get paid, obviously, and I don't know, I think maybe a confidence sort of thing, feeling like I'm more productive, even if I'm probably not really doing anything actually productive. I'm just actually getting out of the house, which I need to do. And then timely, so I want this goal to be completed by the end of this year. So by January 1st, 2018, I want this to be done. Okay. All the goals are going to be by the end of the year, pretty much. So, and then writing. So specifically, I want to write a publishable story every week. This took a little bit to kind of whittle down what exactly I wanted. So essentially by the end of the year, I want to have 50 stories published in some manner, either on their own or in a compilation or something like that. And so I don't necessarily have to stick to publish a story a week kind of thing. And I'm going to encourage myself to write more than that. And then the idea is that I would write a whole bunch of stories in a week, and then I would choose my favorites, or I would take all ones and then compile them according to like type and stuff like that. But essentially I want to have 50 stories done by the end of the year that are published somewhere, on Amazon and in some form, either on their own or in a compilation. And so how I want to do that is writing every day. And so I've actually Omi talked about it, but it's the idea of quitting while you're ahead, because usually when I work on stuff, I'll get, I'll have like a really slow start, and then I'll get kind of into the groove, and then I'll burn out over like one course in one session. And so I have a tendency to drive myself until I burn out every single time I do something, which stops me from doing it a lot. In the past couple of weeks, though, I've been trying to quit while I'm ahead, and so be like, oh, I'm only going to do this much in one day. And so, for example, I've been doing Duolingo with a couple of languages, and so I'm pretty good at languages, so I can probably work on one language for like an hour on Duolingo, but that really burns me out, and it stops me from working on it anymore. But if I found that if I only work on if I only do one of the modules a day, and that takes like 3 to 5 minutes, it's not a big deal for me to keep going back every single day. And so I have a 13-day streak or something, which is the longest I've had on Duolingo. And yeah, it's a lot slower than doing as much as possible all at once, but it's a little bit every day. And so if I do a 3,000 word story a week, that would mean writing 429 words a day, which isn't a lot. That's something I can knock off in about 10 minutes or so, maybe not even that. But the plan is I'm going to open it up into a word counter on the internet that dynamically counts words, and I'm going to stop at exactly 429. I'm going to see if that works. So regardless of how excited I am or anything like that, I'm just going to stop it right there. And so we'll see how that goes. I've never tried that before at all, especially not stopping at like a very extremely specific word count. Usually I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna write about 1,000 words, and then I just stop when I feel like it after I hit 1,000. But I have never stopped at 429 words. So that'll be an interesting experiment. And so hopefully that'll have at least one 3,000 word story done a week. And maybe over the course of the year I'll add more words onto that, because I would like to, last year I was doing like one a day, which 3,000 words in a day I can totally do, which it takes about like 2 hours, but um, I mean, that's not a whole lot considering that's like the extent of my employment for like a couple of years was just less than that. So I would like to get up to that point, but I need to work up to it. I can't do it all at once. Like I did it for about a month and a half or so last year, and it made my income go up a pretty generous amount. I'm pretty sure if I kept with it, I would have be rolling right now. But I didn't. Oh well. So rewards would be money from publishing, obviously. Increased skills from writing every single day, unlike what I do now. And also confidence in publishing stuff. I get really bogged down with making everything perfect, which is bad and stops me from writing. So I think doing that will help. I think hopefully doing that will help stop me from being concerned with perfectionism over getting stuff done. And hopefully more confidence in writing, which I guess is related to before, but I think I get really discouraged a lot and pretty easily. And timeliness, 50 by the end of the year, so like I said before. Alright, so that's goals for my job, money making and stuff. So yeah, I don't know if I'll move on to making like monthly or weekly ones. I should, but this might be one of the things where I have to like keep it slow and slowly ramp it up. So, but I'm gonna close this and I'm gonna finish this and maybe actually do some writing for the first time in God. I do really recommend putting cinnamon in like your really cheapo hot chocolate packets. It's pretty good.